Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast is ranked in the top 1.5% of the most popular podcasts globally. And it's because of my guests. It's not me, it's them. I am honored and blessed to share time with people who are at the top of their game, and they show up here willing to help you get to where you want to be in life and business, and they share some terrific stories. So today I welcome author Dan Armstrong to the show. Now, Dan is an inspiring author and storyteller known for his compelling memoir, I love this, The Adventures of a Real-Life Cable Guy, which chronicles his unique experiences over 3 decades in the cable television industry. And he also penned Smart Dust, The Dawn of Transhumanism, I think I said that right, a science fiction novel grounded in real technological advancements. And his latest bestseller, The Chronicles of Elwick, I was watching as he was writing this on Facebook and LinkedIn, The Chronicles of Elwick, the Temple of Wisdom and Truth, which showcases his versatility as a writer. And I have all of those books. I was so excited to open that box. And as a passionate advocate for overcoming adversity, Dan shares his journey of transformation from a bullied child with a cleft palate to a successful author and speaker. Dan, good morning. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio, and thank you for sending me that treasure trove of books. I was so excited.
Good morning, Denise. Well, it was my pleasure to accept your invitation. I was honored to get the email from you. So I appreciate your time and your energy here today. And congratulations on your latest rating, 1.5% top globally listened to podcast. That's amazing.
It's shocking is what it is.
Well, it's well deserved.
Thank you. You know, when we're behind the microphone, and I don't do video ever, so I'm audio only, and I just assume, incorrectly so, that I'm invisible. Apparently not. So it's a good thing. When that popped up, I did a happy dance. I'm not entirely certain I didn't bang into the window and almost put myself through it. It was embarrassing. So thank you. So tell us a bit about you before we get started. Tell us how you show up in the world.
Well, I think the last couple of years have been a real pivot point of growth for me. I was born with a cleft palate and went through a lot of childhood bullying, and which affects your self-esteem. And through the course of my life, there's been very many instrumental people, but also events and circumstances that have shaped who and why we become who we are. But I think the last 3 or 4 years, I've been more open about having a cleft palate and how I overcame it. I was actually ashamed of it for decades and decades. I didn't want anyone to know.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't, 'cause I felt like they would maybe judge me or say, "Oh, that's why you sound like you." But over time, I've learned that it's actually a strength to admit where you feel weak, why you felt weak, and now what I've done with it to really help impact and inspire and help others to see that, your struggles can become your strengths.
And I have to ask, what did you have to do to get over it, physically and emotionally? Because it's something you're born with. It's not you didn't choose it. It's something you're born
Right.
with. But kids, I'm telling you, they can be so darn cruel.
Well, you don't know that you have something that's, I guess, technically wrong with you. You grow up, you're a little child, you're surrounded by your mom, your dad, your siblings, and they're all protective, and you have no idea until you start to be exposed to your, elementary school years. And then you suddenly you look around, you go, wow, I'm different. And, the kid with a limp and the kid with a lisp and the kid with, a speech impediment, with the stuttering, suddenly you realize that you're not the norm, and you're told that you're not. And whether kids are trying to be cruel, that's debatable, but there comes a time when they should know better, and they don't, and they move in the direction of making themselves feel better by putting someone else down. But I think one of the things that made me physically start to overcome it, and again, still with a low self-esteem, was my parents put us out on stage. When I was 12 years old, we recorded a family album called the Armstrong Family Singers and put us out on stage. We sang at campgrounds, at churches, at fairs. And when you sing, you're actually strengthening the palate muscles and the vocal cords. And you also have to focus on enunciation while you're singing. So that was helpful. And even though I had a small crew of friends, I did sign up for school plays. And again, there's another place where you are required to enunciate your words, to focus on the consonants and your vowels to make sure that everything comes out clear and precise to the audience. And then you have to amplify, because when I was in plays, we didn't have microphones. Everything was, live and creative. So I think some of those early days in my childhood on stage, traveling around the country with my family, as well as the school plays, really developed the muscles to help me develop it. But then again, Denise, I did have to wear a device in the mouth that plugs up the hole that the surgeons could not fix. And to this day, I still wear a steel plate that corrects my speech. If I did not have it in, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because and see, I'm aware of that every day, because this isn't something that, it's like if you take off your glasses, you can't see. If I take the device out, I can't speak. So it's very instrumental to have something, modern science,
Yeah,
to help me. And
no question.
here
But
it
I
is.
have to tell you, if I didn't know your story and you hadn't shared it with me in the pre-interview, I wouldn't know. I
Yeah.
would not know. You sound perfectly normal to me.
Well, it's funny because when I hear a recording, I do hear the 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 quality of voice. They always called it quality at the clinic. They always said you have a different quality. They never said, it was bad or good. They just said you have a different quality. And they did that obviously to help and to heal and to nurture the growth.
I honestly would not know. And being that this is an audio, everything I do on this podcast is audio only, and I listen very intently. I'm not hearing it.
Great. Good. Then everything's working.
Yeah, whatever they did, it's doing the job. So, and I wanted to mention very quickly too, in addition to your solo works, you have co-authored two #1 best-selling books with Kyle Wilson,
Mhm.
Think Big and Next Level Your Life. And you have contributed to the best-selling anthology, The Moral Compass. I've got them all, y'all. I've got all of these books. I'm so proud of this stack of books. You should have seen me, Dan, when I opened. It was a good-sized box. Because I get books almost every day. I interview a lot of authors. And I opened up the door and went, oh, I grabbed a,
Well, smart dust itself weighs 2 pounds.
it's a big book.
Yeah.
And I've gone through all of them. I haven't completely read all of them, but this is how I operate. These books land on my desk or my doorstep, and I start thumbing through them and I start putting sticky notes in them, because my I'm sure she's long deceased. My friendly librarian, because we lived in the library every summer, my mom would just say, go, and off we'd go. But I'm sure she would, she would pull a nun and just smack the crap out of me with a yardstick if I were to turn down.
That's a great word
Seriously.
picture. Pull a
Yeah,
nun.
she would. I would get smacked if I even thought about cracking that spine or, putting a pen or a pencil near it or
Oh,
turning a page. I'm scared now. This was a
yeah,
long
that's
time ago.
hilarious.
So my point was I have sticky notes, pink, green, and yellow. And I start, the books get fat. You think Stardust was big then? Wait till I'm done with it. And each color tells me what I want to go back and look at. Because
Hmm.
I do read them from start to finish, but I thumb through them when they first land here because they're a gift. I'm not going to put them on a shelf and go, oh, hey, thanks. And then I know where I want to go, what questions I'm going to have, what grab my attention. So again, thank you.
You're
Look,
welcome.
you hand me a remote control for TV, I'm going to probably toss it under the couch.
Yeah,
You hand me a book, I'm all happy.
yeah, I'm with you. I have a library behind me of we're just shy of 2,000 books that I started collecting and reading when I was 12, 13 years old.
You should see my garage. I mean, the books in here, I have hundreds,
Yeah.
but every single book in here was gifted like people like you, my podcast guests. I've got bookshelves in my bedroom. My
Hmm.
garage is one long wall of books. I'm not
You
giving them
know,
up. It-
Jim Rohn once said that you need to build a library in your house, and he said every time I walk in my library, I may not have read all of these books, but I feel smarter just walking in.
and I understand that. And listen, I've got one bookshelf in particular. It's the one closest to my desk. That's where the books that I have read over and over again, or I really need to, they're part of my entrepreneurial library.
Yeah,
I really need to get back in there and go, what was that? Oh, there it is. There it is. That's what I was wondering.
yeah,
And then I have other books that they're great, they're good, but I'm not going to read them again. But I'm not giving them away either. I'm kind of greedy about them. They're mine.
they're
So
treasures,
that's exactly
treasures.
right. Right. And who knows, I may read them again, but
Yeah.
they're separated out so I know exactly what shelf I need to go to or what, bookcase I need to go to find what I'm thinking about because I get most of my knowledge from books.
Hmm.
Always have.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, tell us a bit about you. I mean, you talked a little bit about your experience growing up with a cleft palate, but when did you start writing? You took a sabbatical
I
for about what, 30 years or something
Yeah,
like
well,
that?
I remember writing these short 2 or 3 page stories when I was maybe 9 or 10. And I started writing songs when I was about 13. And when I was I was asked to be in a Christian rock band when I was 18 years old, and the youngest member was 15. And 2 years later, we were signing a contract with a record label to do 3 albums. And one of the songs on the album was called Saturday Morning Cartoons by Damascus. That's our name was Damascus. And the song Saturday Morning Cartoons was on the album. And of course, I sang it and I wrote it, sang it. And we traveled all over the country in an old school bus. And we did that for about 5 years. Of course, we all had part-time jobs and we were, we none of us were married at the time. And ironically, the youngest member, he was 17 when we were signing this contract. He had to have his dad sign the contract in lieu of him because he wasn't old enough to enter into a legal agreement, which is hilarious. That just popped into my mind. But again, here we are again on stage, enunciating, singing, entertaining, developing style of how to communicate to an audience with stories. And as a cable guy, because I was doing cable here and there while I was in the band, you start you're meeting all these people in their homes, and I would tell some of these short stories on the stage as well. Well, after the band broke up, I was 23. We had been on the road 5 or 6 years, I think we were together, and a record under our sleeves or under our arms to take places. And about 2 or 3 years later, a radio station manager called me and he said, "Hey, Dan, I remember you in this band telling short stories, and I was wondering if you would be interested in doing like a daily short story with a meaning behind it." And I said, "Wow, that's quite an honor. Sure, I'd love to talk to you." So I went to the station and he told me what he wanted. So I went home and I wrote 5 or 10 episodes. They were a minute long. They had to be very short, concise, to the point, and they were called The Wacky Words of Dan Armstrong. So I wrote 10 1-minute episodes and they aired them. And he called me back and says, "You know what? We got a lot of positive response. Is there any way you could do another 10?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know. I mean, I thought that was the creative limit." And I said, "Sure, sure. Let me think about that."
I have to ask real quick, did you read
Sure.
them? Did they read them? How were they
No, I read them.
presented? Okay.
No, I went into the studio and
Ah,
recorded them. They showed me how to use a recording, some kind of, they don't have them anymore, but it was some kind of recording studio they had off to the side. And long story short, in 6 years, I had written and recorded 1,000 episodes. So I was constantly writing short content. So I had to do what it made me do is become very aware of everything around me and what meaning it had to me or to somebody else, and then relate that to an audience where they could relate back to it. So it really opened up the creative juices when you are when you start, but then it starts to build and exponentially you see things you've never seen before. And so that was when you talk about what develops that kind of skill. That was a huge pivot point, was that radio show.
goodness. If I'm understanding correctly. Look, I don't know about you. I tend to not wander, you know, aimlessly through life. I generally know where I'm going. I'm typically very aware of my surroundings unless I'm walking the dog in the dark and can't find my
Yeah,
own house, which has happened because I'm seriously directionally impaired. Seriously. But like you, I'm very aware of what's happening around me. I'm hearing things, and I hear things that most people don't even know I can hear. I can hear water running outside
yeah,
in a hose. So I'm always listening. It's very quiet in my home because I'm a web developer. I'm always in front of a monitor. It has to be quiet. And I was talking with somebody the other day and he said something and I said, "Oh, this is that." He said, "How did you know that?" I'm listening. And he wasn't upset. He just said, "That's not something we make common knowledge." And I said,
yeah,
"Well, I picked it up." But when you're aware of what's going on around you, I just think you're a lot more interesting person.
yeah. I mean, where I'm sitting, there's the shades and the light is coming through and is casting shadows. And I notice that stuff. And, there's a fish tank in the other room and I can hear the water gurgling. Um, I I have something called synesthesia where when I hear things, I see shapes and colors. So when I'm sitting at a traffic light and I hear someone walking or I see someone walking, it's not just not seeing them walk, it's shapes, it's sounds, it's colors. When someone speaks, I see shapes and colors. So there's always
I'm
something
sorry, I have to
added.
interrupt again. Isn't that
No,
part of the musical part of you?
I think so. And
I do too.
I thought everybody had it. I thought it was normal, but apparently it wasn't. When I met my wife, she was in college. She was a music major, And after a concert she invited me to, she came back and said, "What'd you think?" And I said, "Oh, I love the oboes, and I love the deep, rich cello. I could see the browns all over the stage." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Well, yeah, there's browns and the waves and the high yellow high notes of the flutes were just incredible." So I was equating the music with colors, and she said she had a class about colors and music, and this was 30 some years ago, and she said uh this is not normal. So I I didn't even know what it was called. I just thought it was something that everybody had. So that's made me very aware of my presence
Right. And when
and
I've
everything
heard of
around me.
it, I always equate it to people who artistic, musicians,
Yeah.
artists, people like you see things that the rest of us just don't see. And I hate you for that, by the way. I
Yeah.
am so jealous.
Well, I'll
I
tell you what
want what you have.
I'll tell you what it does, and what sometimes when it's a little scary is when you meet people, you kind of see it's not an aura, but you recognize a color about them. And the good thing about it is you know how to talk to them, and me meeting and walking into thousands and thousands of homes, uh, I can relate to someone pretty quickly knowing what their color is. And some people, if you can't read them, that's scary for me.
Danger, danger, get
If
out.
I don't see a color, I'm like, ooh,
Yeah. Yeah. I would be the same way. I and I completely understand what you're talking about because I've read about this. I can't say I know anybody else that has it or says they have it, but I've read about it and I find it an fascinating phenomena. I
yeah.
would like to have it too. Can you share or no?
I wish I could. I will tell you that I don't, sadly, I don't listen to much music. It's almost like sensory overload. Um, so I don't listen to music as much as I used to. I mean, I have my favorites. Johnny Cash with U2.
Oh yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that, the one they did together. And there's quite a few classic. I love Larry Norman growing up, and um, my kids, the music they listen to is so awesome. It's just so beautiful. And but I can't, I don't turn on the radio in my car. I listen to podcasts, and when I'm writing, I'm listening to, maybe uh, 128 frequency, hertz frequency, or something that's calming.
Right, right. I do the same. It has to be quiet for me. I'm a
Yeah,
highly committed introvert. And when I don't want to talk to somebody, I don't. I just,
yeah,
I won't. I don't put myself in that position. I need to be alone. I'm in my own head.
yeah,
But I'm like you. When I'm in my car, no radio, I'm too busy watching the idiots behind me.
yeah, exactly.
I want to be aware of my surroundings. Am I going to get hit? Is somebody driving to? And I'm not panicking. I'm just aware. And my phone is off. My radio is off. Sometimes I'm listening to the tires. That's it. That's all I got. Are you still there? Did I
Yeah,
lose you?
I lost. I took a sip of water, and I think I missed your last sentence.
Here's the tires. And I'm happy with that. I don't want to hear a whole bunch of rackety rack. I won't turn on a radio. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, yeah.
Complete and
Well, you can't
total
control it. You
nonsense.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
It's
can't
horrible.
control the messaging.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you stepped away from public life for, I think, 20 years.
Yes.
What got you writing again?
Well, when about 10 years ago, I would tell people stories about what I saw in people's homes, and the interactions, the hilarious, the happy, the heartbreaking. And I would tell people these stories, and they said, "Man, you got to write this down." So I started writing the book, and I wrote the entire book. Now, this was back when we had discs. So I took my disc out of my computer and I gave it to an editor. And about 2 weeks later, my computer crashed. I could not, it just crashed. So I went to the editor and I said, "Hey, can I get that disc back? I got to upload it to my new computer." And this is sad. The response was, oh yeah, hey, I lost that. Uh, what? You
They
you
actually
lost?
overrode it. I'll bet you money.
Yeah, they
Oh no.
so I was devastated. So I didn't do anything about it for 6 months. And then I said, no, no, I'm gonna write this. So I don't know where the perseverance or the determination came from, but I started all over again. And 18 months later, I had The Adventures of a Real Life Cable Guy. It's actually the second version, only the first one that's published, but it's it's the second version that's actually out there because I had to rewrite the entire thing from memory. And I think maybe it was meant to be because maybe it's a better version. Sometimes when you do something the first time, it's not the best. Second time is better. And that came out in 2015. And I remember my publisher saying, "Hey, Mr. Armstrong, there's a million books that come out every year. Uh, a hundred, what was it? 100? No, it was a million books a year, and there's 100 million sales. So if you sell 100 books, pat yourself on the back, you're average, and you're a success." I said, okay, great. Well, I sold 100 books in my first week, and they called me up, said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm advertising on my own. I do all my own marketing." And so they offered me a $500 marketing campaign, and I bought it. And then I did my own marketing campaign for $50, and they sold zero, and I sold 10.
I've heard about that.
And
You know,
yeah,
these
and
days you really do have to be your own marketer. There's no
you do.
question. They're not going to help you.
And Kyle Wilson will tell you that. He says, own your own marketing. Don't trust these outside marketing groups. And he's a huge, he sold over and published over 100 number one best-selling products. Um, but getting back into writing, once that was done, excuse me, I knew I could do it again, but I was afraid of it because it took so much out of me. So in 2017, I started Smart Dust, The Dawn of Transhumanism, and that took 4 years. And I published that in 2021 and also uh, had someone do the Audible. Now, the Audible was a bestseller. Smart Dust wasn't, but it did sell about 1,000 books in about 90 days, which is not bad for an independent publisher, with nobody, no marketing team, no publishing team behind you, just me and my little studio doing the best I can. Um, and then that's when I met up with Kyle Wilson, and he had been following me on Facebook, and we had chatted a few times, and he asked me if I'd be interested in writing a chapter in one of his next upcoming books. So I did. And then I flew out to his home and we met and been out to his home multiple times now. And he introduced me to Dennis Waitley and Simon T. Bailey and some other great people in the publishing world who have really been successful. And I think what happens when that happens, your eyes open to a whole new world, and you see these people are real. They're just like you. They have to use the bathroom every day, but they are disciplined enough to know that their craft is important enough to share, and it's also important enough to develop, intentional goals, programs in your life to keep you focused. I met Laura Patilio in Texas, in Kyle's home. She's written, I think, 65 books. She's a USA best-selling series author, and we got talking, and we became pretty good friends. And she inspired me. And let's see, 2 years ago, I came home and I sat down and I said, I'm going to write this book, and it was the Chronicles of Elwick. But I had no idea that I could do it in the amount of time I did it. I did it 3 hours a night for 25 nights straight. and I wrote a book in
Do
25
that because
nights.
remember at the top of the show, I said I kind of watched you doing this on Facebook. By
Yeah.
the way, I am kicked out of Facebook. I don't know why. They don't love me anymore, apparently.
You
And
must have said something.
no, I didn't. I can't find a reason. They keep saying, "No, you're
That's
back, you're
ridiculous.
back. I can't get in." And it's been 3 months. I don't care anymore. I
Yeah.
just don't care.
Yeah.
But I watched you on Facebook and you were talking about this and you were sharing little tidbits about the book. So I was aware of it while you were doing it,
Yeah.
which by the way, I think was brilliant marketing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, what I did with the Cable Guy, I've done with Smart Dust and the Chronicles of Elwick, and I'll do it with the second in the series, the Chronicles of Elwick, which is called Tales of Havenbrook, and it's in the publisher's hand right now. We're working on the all the stuff that has to go into a book, so I'm hoping that'll be out. But what I've always done is actually give away quite a bit of the book to whet the appetite, and then also talk about the struggles while writing. So it's not, I'm not boasting, I'm not bragging. I'm kind of building up other people who have been maybe down on themselves when they're attempting something that's bigger than themselves. And you just need to break things down to small, manageable deeds, actions that you do every day. And then you congratulate yourself. You know, I keep it, I can't tell you how many journals I have, but I keep running journals all the time and put the date at the top and I'll say, bad day, didn't write, or great day, wrote 2,000 words, talked to Denise, uh, you know, made 2 sales, whatever. And I don't know who did it or why someone challenged this action, but they suggested that I write down 100 things that I'm proud of in my life. And it's not about, I'm not showing it to anyone. It's just for me. So it's not an egotistical ride out into the sunset for everybody to cheer and applaud. It's just for me. And one of the things I wrote down was I've written 3 books. Well, now I can say I've written 4, and I can say I've been on 20 podcasts in Pakistan, and I was born with a cleft palate. Now I couldn't write that 4 years ago and say that was an accomplishment, but today it's an accomplishment. I was born with a gift, and had I not been born with a gift to overcome, would I know what winning is about? Can you win if you don't know what losing is? No, you have to know what it feels to lose. You have to know how it feels to be down and beat up in order to be a winner and a champion and victorious. So I know that was a lot, but a lot of my philosophy comes from just reflection
Right.
and then moving forward from that.
Because listen, we all have struggles. Many of us, all of us, I'm not going to say many, that would be a lie. All of us have struggles with imposter syndrome. I'm
Yeah.
guilty.
Oh yeah.
Our friend Tammy Thrasher,
Yeah.
has been nagging me, encouraging me. She's going to listen to this and text me. She has been encouraging me to
Well, she's
start.
good at encouraging. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And she doesn't have any filters either.
No.
So, but she's been after me for the longest kind of time, saying, Denise, you've been doing this podcasting for a long time. You're moving up in the ranks. Teach what you know. I don't, and I start whining. I do. I get very temperamental about it. But because I'm whining, I'm scared to death of it. I know what I do. Can I teach it? Yes, I can. Am I going to? I'm started yesterday. I am teaching what to do to get your podcast heard in 6 weeks in time for the new year. Thank you, Tammy, for
Yeah.
being relentless. But she's my very dear friend. But when she says, you've got to do this, and she'll tell you why she says it. And then she just kind of, once a week I get a reminder. It's like, thank you.
Yeah, we're developing a podcast that's coming out soon, called Momentum
I know.
Pivot Pivot Points and Growth. And it's taking a little bit longer than we thought. And she is a big picture person, and I'm a detailed. I have to know when we're going to start. I want to know how we're going to do what. And I think one of the reasons that is because as a writer, I want to know what my next word is and how to best uh, present my message that it has the most impact. And she does that too, but she's big picture at first. So we really do balance each other out in that way. We challenge each other. Um, but yeah, I mean, what you have and what you've done in your show, it's incredible. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and it's so relatable how you bring out the best in people, and you're not afraid to ask uh, for people to be authentic and vulnerable. So major kudos to you. So yeah, you should be definitely be monetizing everything we do, right?
And I'm finally there, for the longest kind of time. I mean, imposter syndrome is a very real thing.
Oh yeah.
My friend Ben Gay the third, had, he'll talk about his running buddy who he would say he's the best salesperson he's ever met in his life.
Wow.
And, Ben is somebody who was mentored by Dr. Napoleon Hill.
Yeah,
He knows
I'm amazed.
sales. Yeah. But,
I'm
he always
amazed.
talks about his running buddy who would, he would say, you've got to teach us. And the guy says, just do what I do. That's kind of what my attitude, just do what I do. Well, it doesn't work. I
Yeah.
have to teach it. And Tammy smacked me over the head for
Yeah.
that one. She's like, Denise, really?
Well, we're all unique and we all learn in different ways, and then we apply and then we act totally, when obviously we need those encouraging words. And obviously we can't live up to other people's expectations, but we can live up to what we can do.
And I wanted to ask you, because we're talking about writing and, this keeps popping into my head. I've written it down a couple of times. I take a lot of notes when I'm talking with people. And what the sentence that I keep writing, we all have a book in us,
Yeah.
or in your case, multiple books. I'm writing a book right now. Ben Gay told me I had to, so I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm told for once. But
Go
he
Ben
said,
Gay.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
He said, you're going to write the closers part 4. I said, okay. And I am. But, if he has that kind of faith in me, it rubbed off. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. But we do, I think all of us have some level of artistic ability, whether we're creative, whether we're writing, whether we're singing, whatever it is that we're doing. I didn't know I was a creative for years. I'm logical, I'm linear, I get things done. Sometimes I'm a walking spreadsheet. I mean, I just, go here, do that, get that done. And I finally realized, because I finally realized I'm not artistic at all. If you want to play hangman with me, she's gonna need, it looks like it has scoliosis. It needs to go to the hospital. It's bad. But I was equating, wrongfully so, artistic endeavors with being creative, two completely different things.
Yeah.
Once I figured that out, I was like, well, how come nobody told me? I had
Well,
to work it out on my own.
even the way you speak is creative and very artistic. You have a very it's almost like a lavender voice that's just kind of melodically flowing over low hills on the edge of a mountain range just before it goes up. It's very melodic.
I'm picturing that. That's beautiful.
You can tell a lot about people's colors. You can tell their
Yeah.
personalities. I met a guy the other day, and we were talking about it. And he said, "Yeah, I said he was yellow and brown." He says, "What's yellow?" I said, "Well, on the outside, you're very happy, go lucky, and you dress well." And he asked me to be honest, and I said, "And the brown means that you deal with depression." And he said, "Holy crap!"
Oh my.
And and that comes in that creative, artistic way where
Right. Right.
when you're talking to guests, you're actually pulling things out of them with their permission, but you're doing it instinctively, and that's a very well developed talent, but it's also artistic, very artistic.
And I always took it as being instinctive because I do listen. I'll
Yeah.
never do a video podcast. It's just not me. I'm not going to do it. But when I'm listening to you, like right now, I was standing up and walking around for a little bit, but then I sat down and I'm now almost hunched over. Cut- And I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, we had the one phone hanging in the kitchen, had the long, the yellow one,
Yep.
the yellow phone. And, I was the oldest of five kids, and then my mom married somebody with four kids, and I was the only introvert. If I wanted to be on the phone, I needed privacy. That doesn't happen with a yellow phone in the kitchen. I learned to, shove myself into a tiny cupboard and slam that door and hunch over that phone, the receiver, with that long cord and listen. And I do it to this day. I have a landline on my phone. I'm never on my desk. When I'm listening to you, I'm listening very intently.
Yeah, I can tell.
And it's about my only gift, so I just shared it. So there
It's a great gift to
it is.
have. People need to listen more, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
shut up and listen.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you because I mean I think we started and I interrupted you. I'm so sorry, but you're writing discipline and you said you did it later in life, but tell me about your kids. What happened that you started writing later in life?
That is a great perspective because see, I have four daughters and they're 10 years apart, which means, I mean, if they were 5 years apart, I would have been 5 years ahead because when you're giving them baths and you're helping them with homework and you've already worked 8, 10 hours a day and then you're doing the dishes and you're cleaning up the yard and you you don't have time or the energy really to sit down in quiet because they're right when you think they're ready for bed. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. One of them gets up, they're upset. And again, with 10 years apart, maybe maybe Sarah was 12 and Hannah was 2. So now the 2-year-old needs help and she needs to go for a ride outside to help her fall back to sleep. So for years, there was just no privacy. There was no quiet time. And now the radio spots, when I did that, I only had Sarah and Rachel, and they were small enough where I could leave the house on a Sunday afternoon and go record the shows. And the 1 minute shows, I would literally write them during the day on a loose leaf notebook. And I only have two of those notebooks left. I don't know what happened to the rest of them, but so that time frame from age 28 to 48, 20 years, there was there was no way that I could commit myself. So my creative talent was raising my children for 20 years. So I I think as a writer, I'm a late bloomer, but I think it was what was supposed to be, and I don't have any regrets that I started in my 50s instead of my 30s. I think it was meant to be.
And hey, listen, I don't believe that you have to do, you have these seasons of life. At, 17, you do this. At 28, you do this. At 40, you panic and you buy a Maserati. I mean, I just don't buy into any of that. Oh,
Right,
and you get divorced too. There's
right.
that. But, it's just, I think, and I do believe this, that you do the things that you really need to do when it all comes together and you're ready.
That
I mean, there are so
that
many entrepreneurs who started way late in life. Look at
sure.
Mary Kay Ash.
Yeah.
So many people started in their 50s and their 60s and they just went gangbusters. They didn't let their age or what their perceived age get in their way.
I I'll tell you what, it's I call them passion projects. when
trying to
Smart
say?
Dust hit me, I couldn't stop. I just could not stop writing. It was like every night. It was only for an hour, but I did it every night for 1 hour. Every night, 1 hour. And of course, I took a break after the book was published. I took a break, and they're just passion projects. You can't get away from a passion because when you're driving, when you're eating, when you're sleeping, you wake up, you think about it. You can't. It's like when you're in love. You just can't stop thinking about that person. The same is true about these projects. They become like this well, you just can't stop. And I'm in a lull right now. I'm getting ready. I know I'm going to get ready in November, December. That's about the time of the year when I start back up again. I take about two 30-day breaks in a year where I don't write 3 hours a night. I relax. I might write something. I might refine something. Um, but when these passion projects hit me, I can't stop. It's like breathing. And it's
What's next on your radar?
well, I did write the sequel, the Chronicles of Elwick. It's called Tales of Havenbrook, and
Right.
I'm getting some great endorsements for that. So that's there. I am working on a course called STOP. Now that's an acronym, STOP. And I think we did discuss this a little bit uh, in the pre-interview. Um, STOP would be your struggle can become a strength, your tragedy can become a triumph, your obstacles can become opportunities, and your pain can become a passion, a purpose, a plan, a process. And so far, the course is about 150 pages. It's basically an 8-week course, home study, to help people identify um, what what their struggle is. Of course, most people already know, but how can I make this struggle into a strength? How did I make being born with a cleft palate a strength? I was also diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 12 years old and went through an excruciating a year and a half of massive back pain. But I don't even think about it anymore because I wrestled in high school and I was a cable guy, put up ladders and climbed poles and did all kinds of stuff. How's that possible? Well, that struggle became a strength. I worked on muscles, I worked on strategies and ways to increase the muscle around the bone to support the weakness. And the same is true when we surround ourselves with people that have the strength, the muscular strength to help us in our weakness, then we develop the strength when they're not around. And I think that's so important. So that's one of the projects I'm working on right now. It's called the Stop Course. And then I have something else
Okay.
called Practicing Virtues. It's a book
Right.
I'm working on called Practicing Virtues. And
Now you're going to stay in touch, right?
oh
So I
yeah,
can
yeah.
share all this information. It's like
I'll
you have
I'll
any like you have any
yeah,
other options. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
I'll say
I'm just being polite.
I'll send you some cover shots when I get some stuff done.
But you know, I'm looking at your books. I've got the stack there over here on my right close to my desk. And Smart Dust, I want to know more about that because going from the cable guy to, basically looking at life and, you know, observations and listening and watching to transhumanism.
Yeah.
What's that story?
Well, it's interesting because I gave both the Cable Guy book and Smart Dust to Dennis Waitley, and he read them both. And the next time I saw him at his home in San Diego, he said, I said, "Did you read the books?" He goes, "Yes." And he said, "What made you change genres?" And I thought about it. I thought, you know what, Dennis, I didn't think about it being a change in genre. I just meant it was an expression of my interest. And so, Smart Dust, The Dawn of Transhumanism, is basically about nanotechnology being infused into a population without consent. So, It's a fictional novel based on real technology. Smart Dust was developed about 1992. Corporation is behind a lot of the development. I just did a presentation on this for the Tennis and Yacht Club in Lancaster, and the awareness. I could not believe how many people are not aware. But when it's not on your radar, when you're not invested in technology and understanding the parameters of what good or what nefarious things could be done with technology, it came across as somewhat frightening to some of the audience members. They came up to me later and, what can we do? And I said, well, it's not what you can do, it's who you are, and remain to be true to who you are. And that is not allowing the nefarious use of any technology to be accepted as good or to be accepted as normal. And that goes as well as anybody, in leadership, any kind of, I would say, religious connotations or political connotations, that just because you love them or follow them doesn't mean everything they say is good. So Smart Dust, The Dawn of Transhumanism, is really about being aware of your presence and being aware of the world around you, and not just falling prey or, even innocently believing that everything you see, hear, touch, taste is the best for you. So be aware, question authority, question anything that may seem questionable. Really, I know that's a double take there, but it's being cautious. The actual technology is, in fact, in place. When I first heard about it, it was a technology that was spread around earthquake-prone areas to measure the heartbeat of the earth. And when the researchers returned to the site to gather the information, they noticed there were some new frequencies being recorded on the screen, and they turned out to be the pulse rates of the actual researchers. So they realized that these smart dust particles were able to not only record the Earth's vibration and the deeper vibrations of the Earth to monitor earthquake tones, but they were also recording the tones of the bodies. So needless to say, this has been used in military applications. How many troops are on the ground over here, how many tanks, how many trucks, how many cars. So if you can put these monitors, spread them around, and then leave the area, you can still know what's going on in that geographical area. So that's the backbone of the book. And then the moving forward in the book, it's about us becoming, now this is where the fiction comes in. If smart dust is being developed to be eventually small as the diameter of a human hair, well, then it could easily settle into your pore. And because they're being developed in such a way, not now, but they're being developed in such a way that they can be activated and generated using the Brownian effect, like an old watch. You never had to wind it. You just move your wrist. The gears would automatically re-energize the watch. So can smart dust be re-energized by the moving of the host, the body. So the idea is that the further in time we go, the less human we are. We are now human 2.0. And these smart dust particles can mimic parts of our body and replicate other parts of our bodies that are falling apart. So in time, we become somewhat eternal. How's that?
And that makes sense. And I've read enough about other things. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you just referenced. I read everything. I'll read the back of a cereal box. I don't eat cereal, but I'll read that if that's all that's handy.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that are going on in this world right now. And, we've got that. And then we've got I'm just going to call it the way I see it. We've got a lot of demonic influence
Yeah.
happening in our world right now. And people say, "Oh, I don't believe in aliens and I don't believe in demons." Go to Washington, D.C. Just step over there. I dare you. Ask me what I think about governments. I just
Yeah.
told you, but we do have to pay attention. And I have to tell you, I am so excited that you mentioned Dennis Waitley because I asked the same question he did. He got there first, but I'm I'm right there with him. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling very smart right now.
I'll tell you what, Dennis went, he was 89, and then I got to see him when he was 90. He's 91 now. And somehow we ended up alone in his studio where he writes, and he had something, he was shuffling around looking for something on the shelf, and I said, "What are you looking for?" He goes, "Oh, I'm working on this project." And I thought, "You're working on a project at 89 years old?" And he inspired me so much. I thought, you know what? I'm At that time, I said, I'm almost 60, and if this guy's almost 90, I've got 30 years. I could write a book every single year. If he can do it, I can do it. So again, when you surround yourself with people that have gone the path that you want to go, just follow them. Just like Ben said to you, just do
Right.
it. Just do as I do.
That's exactly right. And listen, this is a saying I've heard all of my life, and I use it a lot. Water seeks its own level.
Yeah.
Don't hang around with people who
Yep.
are standing on a street corner drinking out of a brown bag.
Yeah.
Find the best people who are doing what you like and respect and admire and follow them. Learn from them. Let them be your mentors, whether they know it or not. Read their
Amen.
books. Listen to what they have to say. Find the best people and don't settle for anything less.
Yep. I'm 100% in agreement.
Fascinating conversation. And before I reluctantly let you go, and you're going to come back, I do this on the radio, so you can't tell me no, just so you know. But it's very tricky. But I do want you to come back, maybe after the next book, definitely in the
Sure.
new year, because right
Yeah.
now, obviously, I'm booked for the end of the year. But and I want to know more about what you and Tammy are up to, and I'm sure that you'll both be sharing that with me.
Sure. Yeah.
And if there's anything I can do to help, you both have my phone number.
I appreciate it.
And
Thank
she
you.
texts at
Thank you.
midnight, so I
Wow.
texted her at 6 o'clock this morning. I got even with
Get her
her.
back. Yep. That's what you
Yeah,
got to do.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Find the best people and then
Yeah.
pick on them. But before I let you go, and thank you for sharing your genuinely inspiring journey and your
You're
insights with
welcome.
us, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? And where can people connect with you and find your books? And I know that's three separate things.
Well, you can go to my website and just www.danarmstrong.us. That's really easy, danarmstrong.us. My email is pretty easy. It's danarmstrongauthor@gmail.com. If you go to my website, all the books are there. We'll add the others as they come on there. You can click on it. It'll take you to the Amazon site where you can buy the book. That's really that's the best way to support me is visit my site. Send me an email if you want. Just if you want to chat about something, send me an email. I do coach people in writing. I'm also coaching two people in public speaking.
And listen, I have written a review, Amazon, Goodreads, and my blog for The Cable Guy.
I saw it. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I
my
really appreciate it.
pleasure. But the other ones are sitting here on my bookshelf because I have stacks over here that still need reviews.
Yeah,
So I have not forgotten about it. I'm
no,
not
that's
ignoring. I
fine.
have to finish reading them.
Yeah,
And as soon as I can do that and actually write a review that makes sense, I will do that because I
that's
have to
fine.
read them.
Yeah,
I really want to know what they're all about. But when your new book is out, let me know.
you got it. I will let you know.
Thank you. Well, listen to our audience as we wrap up this inspiring episode. I want to thank Dan Armstrong for sharing really his incredible journey from overcoming childhood challenges to becoming a best-selling author. And his stories remind us that resilience and determination can lead to transformative experiences. Don't knuckle down and don't whine and cry. Just get busy, is what I'm taking from it. And whether it's through his memoir, The Adventures of a Real Life Cable Guy, which is a great book, or his latest works, Dan continues to inspire us to pursue our dreams and embrace our unique paths. Seeing my voice, I do this every time. You'd think with the podcast I'd have a stronger voice. Nope, I don't. So if
You're
if you
fine.
I don't have any filters. I really don't.
Best
I'm
way
an
to be.
introvert, but I'm not shy.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah. But listen, everybody, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and I'm looking forward to having Dan come back, be sure to check out his books on Amazon and connect with him on social media. And I need to take a moment to ask you, the audience, for your support. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And glowing would be great. A 5-star would be wonderful. And why? Because your feedback not only helps me improve the show, but it also allows others to discover it and my guests. Positive reviews can significantly enhance my visibility on air. So making it easier for more listeners to find and benefit is such a benefit. And I really appreciate you doing that. So thank you for being part of this journey with me. I truly appreciate your support. Dan, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation.
My pleasure, really. I really enjoyed myself.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.